opinion or the position of NECA over the years has been the private sector doesn't really need to wait for the minimum wage to decide their salaries. How do you react to that?
Yes. No, of course, like we've always said, in the private sector, organized businesses engage in negotiation with their sectoral unions every 2 years. And over the years, you discover that benefits and pay packages were constantly improved on a biannual basis. And that is why even the 30,000 naira that was eventually agreed upon at the tripartite committee is still far below what most of our members are already paying. I can say authoritatively that over 75% of organized businesses in Nigeria are paying way above 30,000 naira. We have those that are paying as high as 75,000. We even have a minimum wage of 100,000 in some sectors. And that underscores the issue of the need for us to have a very sound and organized structures of engaging workers and their representatives on a consistent basis, so that we don't have to wait for 10 years or even 5 years before we take a look at their package and start another round of disruption to the economic peace or industrial peace of the nation. And we recommend that to even the public service to embrace that industrial relations system that puts in place a machinery to engage their workers on a regular basis to review their pay and packages based on economic trends and other variables.
Now, let's take this home to the Nigerian looking at us now, and everyone who is not looking at us at this moment. What are the likely implications or impact of this minimum wage increase on especially the private sector that you represent? What are the likely implications on the Nigerian and the job market?
Well, the initial fear canvassed with regards to, I first speak about Nigerians generally, canvassed with regards to the issue of the quantum that was arrived at, is that with regards to the issue of affordability, that if it is not affordable, it may cause some sort of job loss, massive job loss in the economy. And I dare say that in the organized businesses, most likely that will not be one consequence that is going to happen. Because like I said, majority of them are already paying higher than 30,000 naira. And that takes me to another aspect of the likely consequences. We expect or envision a situation where, even though we are already paying above 30,000 naira as organized businesses, we envisage a situation where labor unions come around to want to negotiate consequential impact or effect of the increase. In other words, they will still want to ask for a further raise based on what has been agreed. And we've said that this is needless, because what has been agreed is the minimum below which employers are not supposed to pay. It is not a general salary review. So we expect them to listen to reason and not push further with regards to this. And one other likely effect again is with regards to the natural expectation of all and sundry, especially our tradesmen and market men and women. Because for them, they would just key into the information that, look, yes, there has been a salary increase, without actually knowing is a minimum wage that has been set, without actually knowing that it is not all levels of workers that are impacted, but those that are earning below that particular minimum wage. And most likely, erroneously or ignorantly, it may lead to price increases in goods and perhaps some services to an extent. So,
you know,
we need to intensify our enlightenment.
That's going to be...
That, look,
yeah, that's going to be a job of work that needs to be done, because once they've already internalized that, who knows if they cannot learn and then bring in new things. But while this negotiation went on, while the tripartite committee was doing its work, we had a labor official who told us at the time that no fewer than 10 of the 36 state governors or states offered to pay minimum wages higher than what the federal government was tabling. He reeled out those states and some of the figures to us at the time. He said, for instance, Pt.2 had offered to pay 57,000 naira, but when Labour initially insisted on 67,500. But then they later came down to between 25,000 naira and 30,000 naira. He went on to say if Abia offered at least 42,000 naira, Jigawa 32,000 naira, Nasarawa 31,000 naira. It went on and on to some of those states. But we also did have Ms. Amapeple, while the conversation also went on, eventually saying, well, yes, we had agreed on this, and it appeared as though that 30,000 naira that they had agreed on was what everyone expected to be carried forward. But when you then say it's not cast in stone, because we believe NECA was in that committee, does that mean that you were not all on the same page?
What I meant by it not being cast in stone is when you say you are making recommendation, a recommendation, and that's public knowledge that we were set up as a committee to recommend to government. A recommendation is supposed to be advisory. In other words, you are not saying, now that I have recommended to you as a robot, you must rubber stamp it. No, that will be counter to the expectation. Having said that, it is also true that many states actually proposed rates higher than 30,000 naira, and it's on record. So the labor officer that actually said that was correct. But I think that's the spirit. Even in the course of sensitizing Nigerians across the states, labor unions went round and met chief executives of each state. And many governors came out to say, yes, whatever the outcome is, they will pay. And some even made specific statement that they will pay 30,000 naira. And we've also seen a few that are committed to paying even higher based on their revenue profile. So that is the spirit. A benchmark has been set, depends on what the outcome is, the National Assembly, and what is assented to by the President. Having said the benchmark, depends on their capacity. Any state may choose to pay way above that. After all, it's 18,000 naira, and Edo State is paying 25,000, and I also know Lagos State is paying above 18,000 naira presently. So they are at liberty to pay beyond that. But what we are saying is that it is a threshold below which you cannot go. And that's why it's the minimum wage.
At the twilight of the negotiations of the tripartite committee, Labour basically kicked against a move that was made by the federal government, which is the setting up of the technical committee. And they said that that's some kind of moves in disguise to truncate what has been agreed at the tripartite committee meeting. What are your views? Do you think that it had any input whatsoever in the reduction from 30,000 naira to 27?
No, I don't think so, because the terms of reference of the technical committee set up by government was clearly spelled out by government. Initially, when the populace or stakeholders didn't understand what the president meant when he addressed a plenary at the National Assembly, our reaction was, the assumption was that, oh, probably it's another committee to review the works of the tripartite committee, and we've since discovered that no. having realized, because government kept saying it does not have sufficient funds to sustain 30,000 naira if eventually 30,000 naira comes to stay. And there was the need for government to think out of the box on how to fund the consequential increase. And I guess that was the major reason why we have economists and the technocrats that were assembled to advise government on funding source, mechanism, and other related issues. And like you assume that probably the committee's work impacted on the outcome of the Council of State, but I don't think so because the committee barely started meeting, and they are yet to turn in their report to government. And the essence of their sitting or task is not to advise the Council of State. The Council of State is an independent body that is competent enough to form its opinion. And I think that is what it has just done. The committee is to advise the president on outcome of the minimum wage setting. So once we agree at the national minimum wage and is passed into law, how will government go on to implement? Where are they going to source the fund? What are those things that government can do to sustain, to ensure that we don't find ourselves in a situation some months down the line and they find it difficult to continue to pay, and so on and so forth. Well, I believe that's the position, the essence of the committee.
Well, the thing is, Labour at the moment is insisting that it's 30,000 naira or nothing. So, as you say, maybe when we get to the bridge of the National Assembly and what they then do, we'll take it from there. But we've gotten to the bridge where we'll end the segment at this point in time. We'll have to thank you very much indeed for joining us, Timothy Olawale, DG of NECA. We're back in a moment. Don't go away.